Thanks for stopping by to my channel today to learn something. And for those who have not subscribed, if you're a first timer, please hit the subscribe button so that every time I post a new video, you'll be the first to get the notification. My videos are easy to practice, easy to understand once you have a heart for creativity and your mind is open. You can learn one or two things and then work on it to have your better projects. Okay, so now let's go to the workroom while I show you how to make a particular design. The first thing to do is to mark your vertical measurements. That's from shoulder to chest line. How do I get the chest line? That is, you measure your armhole, you divide by 2. The armhole for this tutorial is 16, divided by 2 is 8. So from shoulder to the chest line is 8. The chest line can also mean the over bust measurement. Then shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to half length, and then you add 1.5 inches seam allowance to the length. Mind you, remember to always add half inch at the vertical measurement because you'll be joining the half inch at the shoulder. Okay, so now you get your circumference measurement. The bust circumference for this tutorial is 33.5. But because this is a jacket, you need to add 1 more inch to the measurement of the circumference for the person, so that by the time you wear the jacket, it's going to be free. The jacket is not supposed to be tight like a normal bodice, so you're going to add ease of 1 inch to the measurement. So the bust is 33.5, but because of the jacket, I'll make it 35. So 35 divided by 4 is 8.75. That's 8.75. So I'll mark that here, and then I'll add maybe 1.5 inches seam allowance, or you can decide to add 2 inches seam allowance depending on what you want. The under bust measurement is 31, but for this tutorial I'll make it 33 because I don't want it too tight on the person. So 33 divided by 4 is 8.25. That is 8.25. You mark that, and then I'll add 2 inches here. Why? Because my dart will be under the bust. So you can see that the allowance I put under the bust is more, is just half an inch more than the one on the bust. So the measurement of your under bust, just transfer it to the half length like that, and then you rule it down. So now for the shoulder circumference, the shoulder circumference is 14 inches. That's the back measurement, 14. But here you discover that I added half inch. Why? Because the shoulder of your jacket should not be directly on your shoulder blade. Okay, so you're going to add half inch seam allowance. So some people say for the normal bodice too, should they add half inch? If you want to, you can add half inch allowance for your shoulder measurement. That one will be used in joining the sleeve to the main block of the dress. But for the jacket, you must always add half inch seam allowance to your shoulder. But on your basic bodies, you can choose to add it or you can choose not to add it. Okay, so I'm adding half inch to the shoulder measurement. So now I'm going to get the half length, the midpoint of the armhole. This is 8. Then you divide by 2 again to give me 4. So on the midpoint, you're going to mark half inch into the block of the dress. And then you take your hip curve or your curve. Okay, let's use the upper part. You're going to connect it from the shoulder here into the middle. Okay, and then you also get the armhole curve this way to just connect it. Mind you, this is just for the front block. We only shaping the front block armhole so as to eliminate the bulk that usually comes here on the chest. But on the back block, you do not curve in at all. So for the front block, I'll be cutting in this red line, but for the back block, I'll be cutting in this blue line. So you just connect the top of the chest line to your bust measurement. So I'll cut this out and then I'll show you how to make the front block on the fabric itself. So this is our back block, and it has been cut. So I want to show you how to measure the neckline. For your jacket, you don't make the neckline too wide. So for this person, I'll use 6 inches width. 6 inches width. 6 minus 5 is 6 minus 1 is 5. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. Why did I subtract the 1 from the neck width? Because by the time you'll be turning with your lining, it opens up by ½ inch on both sides. That's 1. So 5 now plus the 1 that is going to open up will give you 6. So anytime you're measuring your neck width, always subtract 1 inch from it while cutting, because your lining or facing will increase your neck width. But on the neck length or depth, you use the accurate measurement. So for jackets, the back of every jacket is 1 inch length for the neck. It's not so deep. So that's the standard. So you get a square and then you create a curve on that point. So you come to the armhole measurement where you have the shoulder there. You just mark your 1 inch for the shoulder slant. If you have watched the tutorials on basic bodies, you discover that this is actually standard for any block pattern. Standard. So you cut it out. This is the back. Now I'm going to cut the front block. So the basic bodies that we measure for the front block now has become our back, because it has no zipper allowance. The opening will be on the front. So here the front has become the back. So now you're going to, for the front pattern, you measure 4.5 inches for your collar. This is the collar here. It's not going to be cut out from the main block, so it's together. You measure 4.5 inches away from the center of the front. Mind you, you're supposed to make the pattern double, but because we are managing stuff, so this is what I'll be using to cut the fabric later. 4.5 inches width for my collar, and then at the top of the pattern for the front, you measure 3.5 inches away from the shoulder there. Now 3 inches will be for the turning in of your collar, while ½ inch will be for sewing it together. You understand the technique as we go on. So now you place the back pattern against the lines you have made for the front block. You place your back pattern, and then you're just going to trace out the back pattern on the front pattern. Okay, so that's the back pattern on the front. Remember to curve in the center of your armhole for the front. You curve it in like this. Okay, so you make the shoulder slant. Look at what I'm doing. I'm placing the back on the front from the line, not anywhere into the line. It's on the line. So you create your shoulder slant there, and then the neck width that you have done on the back pattern, you just connect it straight up for the front. It goes up. So you come to the collar area, and then you mark 1 inch into this block here, 1 inch. And so you just be curving 1 inch like this to meet the collar. You can decide to leave it open, but I prefer to always curve it so that there will be a bend at the top of my collar. You just curve in by 1 inch, and then I'm going to cut out this shape. So I've used this in cutting the fabric. I've used it in cutting the fabric like this, and then you can see my pattern for the front. The two have been cut. Now you might want to ask that, how did I get the 3.5 inches? Remember that your neck width for this tutorial is 6 inches. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's the 3 that went up into the collar, plus ½ inch that I'll be using to join the two sleeve. the basic sleeve is the normal sleeve without the puff, okay, and then it has the normal circumference, but because this is a ball sleeve, you need to increase the circumference, and then we'll use the elastic band to smoke the circumference, so it can puff up under the sleeve. So now, I see the calculation I've done here. Many people ask, how do I get my armhole slope, the armhole slope on the sleeve? So that is the cap height, the difference between the top of your shoulder, into the cap. Show them the cap here. So the cap height is the distance between the shoulder bone and this area. So that's where you get in order to know how to curve in your armhole. Okay, so now the cap height, you get it by dividing the bust by 12. Then you add ½ inch to the measurement. So 34 is the bust for this tutorial. 34 divided by 12 is 2.28. When you add half to 2.28, it gives you 3.3. Now, this is it. 2.28. That's about 2 3/4 or something. Plus half. That's 3.3. It's just here. So, from there, I'm going to be getting, that's the cap height, and then the sleeve length is 16 inches because it's a 3/4 sleeve. It is after the elbow. The elbow area, this is about your short sleeve, 8 inches. The elbow sleeve is about 11 inches. Then the 3/4 is 16 or 17 inches. And then the long sleeve goes all the way to your wrist. That's about 23 inches. Okay, so now because I want the ball to puff up under, you'll be adding extra inches to the length of your sleeve. So I'm adding 4 inches extra to the length of this sleeve. Okay, so now the sleeve circumference is 11. For this person is 11. So 11 divided by 2. Any measurement on one side of the body, you divide by 2. So sleeve circumference divided by 2 is 5.5. So you mark that on the length. And then because this is a ball sleeve, it needs to be wider. So as to smoke it together, I'm adding 5.5 inches to this unfold. 5.5. So that's about 11 plus 11. So my sleeve circumference now is 22 inches. Okay. So that's about that. So I'm going to be getting my armhole measurement on this cap height that we did here. So for this tutorial, the armhole measurement is 16. Let me show you how to measure your armhole again. You take your tape rule, round your armhole. For those that did not watch this on the basic bodice, this person is quite smaller than I am. So for me, I would conveniently use 17 inches for my armhole. But for this person, we're using 16. So you make your armhole very firm, your tape rule firm round the shoulder here. So that is the measurement for your armhole circumference. Okay. So the armhole here is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. You're marking 8. And then you can add about ½ inch there. So what do you do now? You just write an S. You just write an S to connect your sleeve. You just write an S like that. Some people use the armhole curve. You can decide to use the armhole curve here, and then you also bend it here. You can see it's almost accurate. You bend it this way, and then you bend it also this way to connect your armhole curve. Okay, so from there I'll be linking it directly to this underneath. I'll be linking it to my sleeve length. So it's coming out as an A-line sleeve. Okay, but if you want puff on your sleeve, what you need to do is to increase your shoulder measurement. You can increase it by 3 inches or so. So you're going to be connecting your armhole slope from the extension into the armhole itself. So that's for you to have puff here. But because this is a basic sleeve, there's no need for a puff. That's why I'm doing it accurately like this. So you're going to cut that out. So for the flare radius, I'll be using the half length circumference, that's 33 inches round half length, because the flare will have gathers. So we're multiplying the 33 by 2 for fullness. 33 by times 2 is 66. So you divide 66 by 4. Now I'm not dividing by the usual 6.28 because this is not an accurate flare. It is an extended flare. It's doubled. So you are safe to still divide by 4. 66 divided by 4 is 16.5. Now to know the amount of fabric we should fold, 16.5, that's the radius, plus the length of the flare. Remember that the half length is 15.5 inches and the full length of the blouse, that's the jacket, is 23 inches. 23 minus 15.5 will give me 7.5. So the upper block is 15.5, the flare will be 7.5. So when I add that to the radius, it gives me 24. Now the fabric I'll be folding will be 24 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. The 1 inch will be used to turn the flare underneath, and they would be used, the half inch will be used in joining the flare to the bodice, and then the half inch will be used in joining the flare with the lining under. So in the total, I'll be cutting 25 inches. Because it's a 360-degree flare, full flare, you'll be folding your fabric into 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I made it this way because Ankara fabric is by 45. So if we said we need 24 inches, 25 inches on this length, that means on a double length we need 50 inches. Ankara is not up to 50 inches. But if you're using polished cotton or other correct fabrics, you can still fold into 4 together. So what I'll be doing after now is to cut a straight line. You know, I said we need 5 inches more. So 5 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance I'll be using to join this area in order to extend your Ankara fabric. So I will show you once I'm done with the joining, but this is how to fold. So I've measured the accurate measurement of flare that I need, 25 inches on the length and 25 inches on the breadth, and I folded into 4. So my radius is 16.5. So from the tip of this triangle, that's the apex point, you measure 16.5 round. So you measure 16.5 round like this. So for the extension, I decided to first join it before cutting out the flare length. Okay, so I told you that your Ankara is not sufficient if you want to cut the 360-degree. So you cut an equal width of fabric to join to these other 2 folds. And so by the time we're done, we can be able to cut our flare conveniently. So I'll join this now and cut off the flare. Okay. So I've measured out the radius 16.5 round. So the length of my flare is 7.5 plus 1 inch, that's 8.5, and I've been able to measure it round. So that's the joined part of the Ankara. And so you just cut this out to get your flare. So this is your 360-degree flare all the way around. So it's safe if you allow this to be at the back of your jacket. So you slash the front of the flare where it will meet the opening of your jacket in front. So this is the front that is being slashed, and then let your joining be at the back for neat finishing. For the front block, we want to cut the facing of the front block like this. Now because your front block will be showing, the facing will be showing by the time you sew your collar. This is going to be showing outside. So it's preferable you don't use lining, use the main fabric for this facing. So you're going to be cutting the 4.5 that we did on pattern, 4.5 inches, and then you add half inch seam allowance to it because you'll be joining the facing with the lining. So the remaining part of the front block will be cut as lining. You can use your cotton or aba lining or china for that, but the collar area will be done with the fabric with the facing. you cut out facing for your fabric, and you had 1/2 inch seam allowance. And mind you, remember to put your darts. If you're not a beginner, you know how to put your darts. From this point of the collar, you just measure 4 inches down. 4 inches because the bust span, nipple to nipple, is 8 inches, divided by 2 is 4. So you mark 4 inches here, and then you go up the length 5 inches. So the length of your dart is 5 inches. The width of your dart is dependent on your bust span. Thanks for watching. Okay, so now we're sewing the shawl collar wrap jacket. So you can see that I've ironed my hair stay on the wrong side of the front block. I ironed the full hair stay, and then you're going to be picking your darts. You will sew your waist darts on both of them. You sew your waist darts. On the back block, you can decide to add your hair stay too, but because this is a tutorial, I decided not to waste my hair stay. So just pick your darts like that on the back, and so you'll be pinning the two together, the fabric, pin it together. You pin the shoulder area to the back. You can see you pin the shoulder areas together. Make sure they are equal like this, and pick the other side together. And so the collar area, you also sew it together like this. You're going to be sewing 1/2 inch on your collar area. So when we finish joining the collar area, the side and the shoulders together, we will also do the same for our lining. We'll do the lining the same way. You pick your darts, you join the collar, you join the two sides, you shape it out, and then once you've sewn your collar, you've sewn the sides, what you do now is to sew in the edge of the collar into the back neckline. You sew that for the fabric, and then you also sew that for the lining. Remember, it's the collar you are sewing into the back neckline with 1/2 inch. So we're done with the front and back block joining. Now we want to fix in our sleeve into the main block of the dress before turning the armhole with the lining too. So it has to be the invisible closing, so you must fix in your sleeve first. So remember, this is going to be a ball sleeve, so you're going to top stitch 1 inch, fold in 1 inch at the hem line of the sleeve, and you top stitch down. So you get the sleeve circumference, sorry, your wrist circumference, or it's a 3/4 sleeve. So you're going to get that circumference of that 3/4 area, and then you add about 4 inches ease. Except you want it really tight, then you can just add about 2 inches ease for the elastic. Okay, so you take in, this is the safety pin. It's available in any stationery shop or tailor's shop. Just put it at the beginning of the elastic band, and then you insert it into the opening that you've top stitched here. You insert it. As you're inserting, the elastic is going to be, you're going to be looking for it very soon because it's getting shorter. So once you're getting to the edge, you pull gently, and then you're going to be, okay, see now, it's almost going in. So you're going to pin this elastic band to the fabric. So I've secured this first end with the office pin, with the office pin. So you keep pushing in the safety pin, you keep pushing in to the other end like this, and so you take out your pin, you align the elastic to the edge, and then you also pin that down, pin it down. So you discover that in a way this elastic band is not smoking that area. So what do? You're going to cut off some of it so it can really pull your sleeve together. So we are done with the sleeves now. If you want a bigger ball, just make your
A-line sleeve, very big. You can add about 10 inches to the width, so it's going to give you a fuller ball effect, but it's just the same technique. So we've done that for the second side too, and then you can see the elastic band smoking the sleeve circumference. Okay, so now we're going to take the flare. That's the flare. We've ironed the hard gum stay on the lining, and then you can iron air stay to the fabric, but I decided not to waste my air stay because this is for tutorial. So you iron like that, then you notch it on 4 points. Let's fold into 4. Thank you. So we've sewn at the circumference of the flare. You're going to join the lining and the fabric together with 1/2 inch, and then you fold your fabric into 4. Sorry, you fold the flare now into 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you'll be notching this corner at the top, and then you notch the 4 corners here, so that by the time you open up, you know which part to pin to the upper block. If you do not notch, there's a tendency that your flare can shift to one side more than the other. So always take the time to pin and notch if you want a neat project. Remember, it's the invisible finishing we want to achieve. So after joining your upper block, you open it up on a long row like this. Open it up on a long row, and then you notch the back block. Notch it at the back, and then you also, the part of the flare that you've notched, you're going to pin it to the back block there. You pin it to the back block. Now you're going to take the other notched part of the flare on the side, and then you pin it to the side joining. You pin it to the side joining like this, and then you also pick the edge of the flare. You pin it to the edge of the upper block. You leave 1/2 inch because of the collar. You're going to leave 1/2 inch on both sides. So now we've pinned. So all you need to do now is to pleat this fullness. Pleat this fullness into this space. You pleat the next fullness into that space. So you just pleat, whether you want to do gathers or you want to do pleats, it's at your discretion. So just pleat or gather around the fullness into the upper block, the fullness of the flare into the upper block. So when we're done, I will show you what next. So that's the pleating process. Now the distance between your pleats is dependent on you. If you want it tiny, fine. If you don't want it tiny, fine. Just pleat all the way to the edge of the collar. That's our pleats all the way round. So remember, we've sewn our lining the same way we made the blouse. Sorry, the dress itself. So you're going to now hold up the, look at this, you're going to hold this up. We want to use the lining to cover up the pleats. So you take the right side of the lining, you place it against the pleats here. So make sure that the center point is on the notched part for the back, and then you pin the sides together. Then you pin the edge of the collar to the edge, sorry, the edge of the collar on the lining to the edge of the collar on the fabric, and then we're going to sew 1/2 inch round. So I've sewn to the edge of the collar. So you lift up your presser foot, you turn it around. I'm doing the invisible closing. So we're going to be sewing the collar now, the collar to the facing as well. Make sure it doesn't pick your pleats, the flare. Just tuck it in, and then you'll be sewing 1/2 inch round your collar. So we've sewn everything into each other. You can see the closed finishing like this. So you're going to bring it out from the sleeve, from the armhole. So that's your jacket, and then so you're going to be sewing 1/2 inch round the sleeves like this. You sew 1/2 inch round the sleeve, that means the lining to it, and then you'll be turning the rough edges with bias or with a strip of the lining to cover up the mess. So when I'm done, I'll show you. Now I want to turn the armhole with bias, so you just cut out a long strip of lining, or you can use the ready-made bias, and then you place it against the lining of the dress at the armhole. So you'll be sewing 1/4 inch. You can sew 1/4 or the exact half, but we're sewing 1/4 inch around the armhole now. So I'm done sewing. So what you're going to do is, you can see this place, I turned it up rather, up. So you're going to be folding like this, up. You can fold double, like this. So you're going to be top stitching again, round. So you can see the neat finishing using your bias strip, or after you've cut on bias, you can cut your lining on bias and use it to finish the edge. That's what we've done for both sides. You can see, so the rough edges have been covered like that. So I'm going to be displaying this for you to see. Our shawl collar jacket is set. So that's the shawl collar jacket, the wrap jacket. And then look at the beauty of the ST. When you use ST on the fabric, it does not let it crease at all. You can see it's very smooth. So you make your belt. This belt is 6 inches by double of the waist, and then you just take it around your jacket like that. So you can see the ball sleeves. Like I said earlier, if you want it fuller than this, then you just increase the sleeve circumference. You can see the beauty of it. Thanks for watching. I hope to see your practicals very soon. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe icon and the bell icon too, so that every time I post a new video, you will be the first to get the notification. And then if you're on Facebook, you can join my Facebook group on Fashion Life and Style w/Debbie Rose. On Instagram is DebbieRose_fashion. And then you can also follow me on Instagram at IamBookie_Olajide. If you have your comments, if you have questions, please leave it in the comment section, and I'll be glad to hear from you. And if you have any other sewing projects you think I should teach you, please make your suggestions in the comment section. Now let's go over to the table as I show you how to cut and sew.